Hello, Terry here, Hot Wrench Fabrication, coming to you live from the shop. And this is our next project. May have seen this on the channel before. If not, go back and check it out if you want. We got a pretty cool wiring video, and then I made some spindles for it last time, which held up pretty good. It's got the Cadillac Northstar engine in it, which was pretty popular back in the day, but not so much anymore. The LS platform is definitely taken over. So this is when it's coming out, and souped up little 5.3 is going back in. Should be right around 450 500 horse, something like that. Probably closer to 450 engine wise. About 375-ish to the wheels, which is good because this has 930 CVs and 2D, so we don't want to break that. But yeah, this thing's a mess. It leaks and just, I mean, it starts and runs okay. It's just underpowered. So I'm going to walk you through how to switch this motor over. It's going to be quite a bit. You have to do the clutch adapter, different headers, computer. So there'll be a little bit of wiring, air cleaners, a little bit of fab work. Got to make new radiator hoses. Radiator hoses are all over the place. It goes all the way over there and then down around the bottom, and it's just, luckily the inlet and outlet are on the correct side for an LS, because they'll come back around here and tie right into the water pump, which is right here. So yeah, this will be a good little series. Got parts pouring in, motors at the machine shop already, all kinds of stuff right there. I'll give you a ballpark on what it costs to do a swap like this, just in case you're interested in doing that or want to know. So stay tuned, and thanks for watching. Well, worked on it for a couple hours yesterday and got pretty much all stripped down. Just getting the coolant out of it now. Kind of a funky setup for these hoses. No place to drain these things, so always making a mess. Can't help it when you drain coolant, it just gets everywhere. Everything's stripped down. I actually made this little cage adapter dealie last time it was here. The cage didn't come off, and this motor was super close to the cage. I don't even know how they got it in there, but it should just kind of fall out right now. I got this hose I have to do, and that's about it. Other radiator hose, and then this thing's going to come out. Big day at the Hot Wrench Fabrication. Got the block back from the machine shop. She's looking all spiffy and clean. Decked it, bored it, line honed it, installed the cam bearings, and now I got to go through and race prep the block. So basically what I'm going to do is go in and remove all the jagged flashing and stuff in there from the whatchamacallit forging process when they make these blocks. It's just real rough in there, so that's where the oil returns. I'll go through and knock down all these edges. So you got sharp edges all the way around here. Just go through with a die grinder, knock all those edges down all the way around the whole entire block, and just smooth things out. And that helps. Well, this part will help for cracking. So if you ever have any stress cracks or stress risers, they're going to be formed on the edges. So by going around the whole entire block, cleaning all that up. See, I'm going to take out all this flashing in here, all the junk that's left over from when they made the block. So just race prep it, clean it all up, and then all of this needs to go in that. The crank is obviously turned and polished. Brand new everything. Nice, really nice brand new rockers, cam, roller lifters, brand new heads, brand new oil pump, oil pan. Yeah, it's gonna be nice. And then this is all the pistons and everything we need. I went with Gen 4. This is a Gen 3 motor, but I went with Gen 4 rods because they're the pins are slip-in full floaters instead of press-in, so this makes assembly a lot nicer. So that's next. I'm not going to show this whole process because you guys have seen engines built a million times, but I'll go through a couple of the things and kind of show you what's going on. So I bought one of these Milwaukee die grinders. It's one of the best purchases ever. This thing is so cool. I have obviously air die grinders, and then I have a electric one on a foot pedal, but this one's, you know, battery powered, and this thing is awesome. So you can go in here. Kind of time-consuming process, but if you have some good carbide bits, it goes pretty quick. So I don't know if you can see, but I already smoothed out that corner right there. It doesn't take much. All you want to do is just knock down the real sharp edges and all the junk that's sticking out. And you can see that got a pretty good corner right there. There we go, all smoothed out. So we'll do that with the whole entire engine. So just grab your favorite chair. I actually made this one. A bunch of tools in there and poured the epoxy in there. It's kind of cool. And it's, of course, it's adjustable. It's got a little screw on there. Oh, needs a little WD. So plugging away on here. And you can see this one's got some edges on there. So the casting actually comes off pretty easy when you're grinding on cast. Keys to keep it moving, but you could see the difference. And that was only maybe a minute or so. So just smoothed it out, got these rough edges off there. You can see it kind of sticks up quite a bit. So I've already done a lot of this edges on here. All it needs is just a tiny little chamfer. I literally just ran over that once with the die grinder. So this edge right here, see, it's all sharp. That'll have to be done still, but I did this one. Kind of see the chamfer in there, and then I already finished those holes. Yeah, doesn't take much. I'll have about maybe an hour or so in this block, and get it all cleaned up, and then start putting it together. Got it all cleaned up. Slapped a little paint on there. She looks nice. Put the cam in already. I always put the cam in first because I can reach down in between each cylinder bank here and guide it in with my fingers. If you got the crank in there, it makes it a little bit more difficult. So the first thing we got to do is check all of our clearances. Put all the bearings in, and you put them in dry. I'm going to actually use plastic gauge on this. I think plastic gauge works pretty good. I've been building motors for a long time and it's never really let me down. It takes the human aspect out of it as far as, you know, making a mistake on your measuring and your math and stuff like that. If you don't have really good measuring equipment, measuring it all out with mics and stuff like that, and then having to do the math on the oil clearances, you can mess it up. So plastic gauge, not so much. So I have a piece in here. Hold please. There we go. So if you haven't used plastic gauge or you're not familiar with it, it's literally just a piece of plastic, and each little section is the correct amount that you're supposed to either tear or cut. So this little gap in between here, I'll cut it right there. Take the plastic out. After I put the crankshaft in there, I'll lay the plastic on top, put the cap on, torque it down, pull it back off, and then see how much it's squeezed. So I don't know if you can read that, but big one is 1/1000, 15 10,000s, 2,000s, 3,000s. So as long as we're in the 15 to 2,000 area, we should be good to go. All right, so one thing to note when you're working with these LSs is the number 1 cap and number 5 cap are actually the same caps. They just flip them around. So they have 2 grooves, a little groove there and a little groove there. That keeps the bearing from spinning. On the mains, those tabs always go opposite of each other. So on the number 1 cap, you want those all going to the back. So it goes on there like that. So you have the locking tab here and the locking tab here. And then on number 5, it's just the opposite. So you got to pay attention to that because you could put it in the wrong groove. All right, so here's my piece of plastic. See that? And just set it on the crank like that. And then tap that down. All right, so I will go through and put them all on there and tap them all down and tighten them up, and I'll show you the result. Alright, so there's the plastic. If we line this up, you can see that doesn't line up right. 15 is close, but 2 is actually right on the money. So the old school small block Chevys always used to be 25 to 27, so 0.0025, 0.0027. If you actually look up the factory specs on an LS, they are between 8 10,000s and like 1.2 thousandths. They're really tight. So most machinists and builders are still building them to those old specs. So this one's right at 2,000s, which I'm fine with. That's perfectly good. I just did the one for now, so I'll go through and do the rest of them. It's just a very time-consuming kind of pain in the butt deal, but I'll go through them all and check them. But well, I don't think I've ever actually had to return a sorry about that. I don't think I've ever have to actually return a crank because it wasn't machined right. I mean, these guys know what they're doing, and this Kelly's machine shop is who I went to. They've been doing it for a long time, so I'm pretty confident we're going to be good, but I will definitely double check all those, and then we'll put the crank in. Alright, so I finished checking all of those with Plastigauge. Time consuming and boring, but everything looked perfect, so slap some lube in there, put my ARP studs in, lubricated the studs with their special lube so they torque up nice, and got their side bolts in there, put some sealant on that, and it's good to go. So obviously you want to double check to make sure that it spins, which it does. So next I'll throw the chain, stuff like that on there, flip it over. I do have to check the ring gap, and then I can start slapping that stuff in. Alright, if you've been around LS engines, you know that obviously this front cover has no dowels in it, and it fits extremely loose. So you need some special tools, or you don't exactly have to have special tools. You can do it with the straight edge. If you put your harmonic balancer on here, the seal will kind of center itself, and then put straight edge here and here to make sure that these two surfaces line up. I just happen to have this kit that lines all this stuff up. GM's got obviously the factory tools that fit absolutely perfect and lines all this stuff up. But this kit was relatively cheap on the old Amazonian. So this was it's for the front and the rear, and this size actually fit the hole without the seal in it, and I already put the seal in, and I didn't want to pop that back out and ruin the seal, so I just turned it on the lathe. Actually made it the same size as the harmonic balancer, which is going to work out fine. So that centers the seal, and then I will draw these in a little bit. And I'm not going to tighten these up yet. Just like that. Spent most of the morning cleaning this front cover. This engine before was pretty dirty. Cleaned the motor and powder coated it. It's called Midnight Black. It's actually got just a little bit of texture to it. It's going to match the valve covers real nice. Kind of cool. Now we'll put this on. So you don't want to go super snug with all this. This one you do, because this is going to be permanent. But these ones you want to kind of leave a little bit loose and allow it to actually move. If you have a gap right here and you tighten this bolt down, it's not going to allow it to actually pull forward. So you kind of work it up in stages. Alright, so that's tight. I'm going to back that off just a tiny bit. That's tight. So what that does is it helps to pull it up. And we'll get a little bit closer with this one. Alright. Go back to this guy. Snug these up. Go back to these these guys. And work these down. So I'm sure most of you guys have realized that torque specs are pretty much the same. It's based on the size of the bolt. So over the years I've obviously remembered most of the stuff since I've been doing it so long. These are 8mm bolts and these are 18 foot-pounds, and then 6mm bolts are 108 inch-pounds. And that goes true with any bolt. Obviously the size of the shaft is what determines what the torque is going to be, so you don't stretch and break the bolt. ARP studs like we have in here, those are a whole different ball game because the tensile strength on the studs are different, and you can put quite a bit more torque on these. And also there's different types of studs that take more torque than others, so you got to be sure and look at the instructions when you're using that. But whoop, 22, got a little zealous. .2. .1. Just got to go kind of slow with this one. Let the click style, you can go a little bit quicker. Oh, nailed it. Right on the money. These snap-on torque wrenches are absolutely amazing. You could do inch-pounds, Newton meters, foot-pounds obviously, and then that does the angle too. So I use this on torque to yield bolts, and it just works great. With torque to yield, obviously you torque it to a certain amount, and then the degrees is the yield part. What that's doing is actually kind of stretching the bolt and making the clamping force, you know, to factory specs. And the cool thing about this is that you can actually ratchet the degrees. So if you have to go a full 90 degrees but you don't have the sweep, you can go 45 and ratchet it back in another 45, and it'll keep track of what your degrees are, which is pretty cool. But yeah, so that fits perfect. Slides right in there. This was pretty cheap on Amazon, and should have done this a long time ago. I've always used different methods to line this stuff up, and then you just flip it over and you could do the back one also. So yeah, that's it. Alright, so front and rear covers are all lined up. So the edges on here are perfectly flat, front and back. And then where the gasket meets, there's a tiny little gap, so you want to put a little silicone on there. And then pan, when it goes down, gets sealed up completely. Nice, nice. This is a Camaro pan, which fits real good on these. This is actually a 5.3 truck motor, and the original pan is super deep, so it's about 4 inches deeper and a little bit longer this way. So nice and shallow pan. Can you see it? Yeah. Brand spanking new. Some research on that, and that should fit in there quite nicely, but we'll find out. So this goes on just like everything else does, nuts and bolts, but at this point these edges are all lined up, and the only thing you have to do is line up this back edge. So you just put a straight edge on the back. Let me show you. put a straight edge right along the back of here, and it should go down and line up with the edge of the block right there. And then that'll be done, and we can start working on stabbing this thing in there. Alright, so if you're not familiar with Kennedy adapter plates, they make these things for, I think, just about any engine you want to put into a sandrail with a Volkswagen style transaxle, which is this guy here. It's actually a Mendiola 2D, but it's based off of Volkswagen bus transmissions, the bell housing and everything. So the clutches and all that run off of a Volkswagen. So you have an adapter plate that goes onto the original bell housing bolts of the LS style engine. And then these 4 bolts right here, which is going to be studs, go onto the Volkswagen. And you can do, I mean, obviously Honda is a very popular, Subaru is very popular. If they don't have it, they could probably make it. I'm assuming, don't quote me on that, but I mean, you could put a lot of different engines in a sandrail with that type transmission. And then the flywheel is obviously very unique because the bolt pattern inside has to match the LS bolt pattern. That goes right on there. But then the inside part, the clutch, has to match the Volkswagen. So they machine this obviously custom with any type of center that you want also. So that's part of the kit. So it's pretty cool that they do that. They're a little expensive, but I mean, you only have to buy that once. So the Cadillac that I took out of it obviously has a different adapter plate, so I wasn't able to use that. So had to get a new kit. So slap that on, and then I can drop this motor in. Okay, so I'm doing a little experiment here. I tightened the bolts down with a little 3/8 impact here. I just kind of snugged them up, and I wrenched on one of them fairly good, this top one. I just kind of want to see what the breakaway torque is. If I can do this without hurting myself. Oh yeah. So 96 foot-pounds. So it calls for 85 foot-pounds in 4 steps. So you gradually work up to it. And I snugged it down with just the 3/8 little impact and 96 foot-pounds. So pretty easy to over torque. Yeah, see, it's set at 85, so I'll just work my way up. Kind of snug them all down. It's a little cumbersome by myself. This motor's flopping all over. I need a better system. This is dumb. I'll be back. Clutch is installed. Oh. So I went to my local transaxle builder. You can see this shaft has a bunch of grooves in it. So I got this shaft for a clutch alignment tool. And you can see it fits absolutely perfect. The plastic ones that you can get for these, they're okay, but they do have a lot of slop in them. So when you put this in there, you want to make sure that it's bottomed out and you kind of hold it up, like find the natural center. If you let all this stuff just hang down, it may not be centered up to the transmission. So this is the exact same shaft, so you see it goes in and out of there like butter. it's lined up right. Oh my gosh, there we go. So, there we go. Next step is to pop it in. So that motor literally just slipped right in there. It's got 4 studs coming on the plate that go through here. Line them up and it just plunk, it just fell into place. It's one of the easiest ones I've ever installed. So it fits really good. Now all the fabrication starts. Probably going to put the intake on backwards like this. Normally your throttle body would sit here, but he's got a wing. I'm going to lay all that on there and kind of see how it fits, but looks like it's going to work out really good over here. Throttle body here, and then put some air cleaners around the back over here. But yeah, it's looks great. Nice clearance on the oil pan, a couple inches above the frame, and then looking straight down this way. Got plenty of room for accessories, I'm hoping. I gotta put the cage on and kind of see where the water pump and all that's gonna sit. This stuff sits out quite a bit, so I don't know, we might be a little close, but I can just build a new cage on the back, no big deal. So I think that's gonna end this video, and I'll show you the rest of hooking everything up and doing all the fab work and building some headers on the next one. So thanks for watching.